Finally tonight, as the car fire continues to burn in Northern California, those pictures are amazing and horrifying. Local community members, wildlife included, supporting and supported by one another. This is 2-year-old Gracie distributing breakfast to firefighters coming off the night shift. Her grandfather and 2 uncles helping to fight the car fire. Her family wanted to show its support and give back, so burritos, of course, that's the way to go. And we can't forget our 4-legged friends. This photo captures 1-month-old Fawn sweetly thanking a sergeant who saved it. We heard all the stories about people showing up for work, even though they'd lost everything. Thank you to all who are fighting that fire. Thanks for inviting us into your home tonight. For a special report, fair, balanced, and unafraid, my buddy Bill Hemmer, guest hosting for Martha.
Nice to see you, Brett.
Hey,
Good evening to you. Thank you, Brett, for that. Any moment now, take you down to Florida. President Trump's going to be on that stage in Tampa for a Make America Great Again rally that has drum up support from the base and also drum up support for Ron DeSantis. He wants to be the next governor in Florida. All of this with an eye on those midterm elections looming 98 days from now. And good evening, everybody in New York City. I'm Bill Hemmer in tonight from my colleague, Martha McCallum. Tonight is all part of the strategy, the hit the trail at a back-breaking pace in the run-up to what will likely be November's referendum on his presidency. And as the president faces that test, special counsel Bob Mueller facing his own make-or-break moment today. The trial of Paul Manafort, Trump's former campaign manager, started today. And the verdict could weigh heavily on the future and certainly the direction of that probe and America's confidence in whether or not the so-called collusion actually exists. More on all that in a moment, but first, let's go straight away to Phil Keating live at the Trump rally in Tampa. Is he there, Phil, and what is tonight all about? Good evening.
Good evening. Tonight's all about those 2 things you mentioned. Number 1, a traditional Make America Great Again rally, and also the president is going to reiterate his very strong endorsement of Republican Congressman of Florida, Ron DeSantis, who is in a primary battle with the Agriculture Secretary to become Florida's next governor. By the sounds of things, and it's been rock and roll pumped loudly here all day, I think Steven Tyler and Aerosmith are going to be the last people on the PA before the president is introduced and walks out, because he got here about 15 minutes ago to the state fairgrounds. This has been multiple hours this afternoon of raucous, boisterous, cheering, excitement. They've been chanting things like, tear down, build that wall, and of course, my colleagues at CNN getting shouted out heavily all afternoon. But this should be wrapping up here any second now, and we'll have the president get into this evening. Bill?
Good deal. Phil, thank you for that. As we wait that, Charlie Hurt, Washington Times columnist, Fox News contributor with me here. Juan Williams, Fox News political analyst and co-host of The Five. And Greg Jarrett, Fox News anchor and author of the brand new book, The Russia Hoax. And gentlemen, good evening to you. Good evening. It's a boys club, isn't it? A little bit. Go ahead before the president comes out. Charlie, frame why he's here tonight and perhaps his message in Florida.
So, you know, the first midterms for any president are always going to be very difficult. It's an uphill battle. People feel like the people that supported the president feel like that they've won something and they can go home. What Donald Trump is trying to do now, what he has to do, is he has to remind all of those supporters they haven't won. They have to come out and vote again in the midterms if they want to win, in order to hold the House and Republicans hope increase seats in the Senate. And the way you do it is you do it with a rally like this sort of enthusiasm. This is where Trump is at his best. He's out there freewheeling. He's talking about stuff, but he's talking about issues too, and he's very good at that. He always winds a lot of vegetables into these rallies, talking about issues that people care about.
Well, here's one of them, a tweet from earlier today. Juan, you can react to this on screen. He says, I don't care what the political ramifications are. Our immigration laws and border security have been a complete and total disaster for decades. And there is no way that the Democrats will allow it to be fixed without a government shutdown. Border security is national security. National security is a long-term viability of our country. A government shutdown is a very small price to pay for a safe and prosperous America. I imagine we'll hear some of that tonight.
I imagine so, but he had indicated that he was moving away from the government shutdown threat because he got such a negative reaction from Mitch McConnell, even from Paul Ryan, the majority leader of the Senate and the Speaker of the House, in terms of damaging Republican prospects going into the midterms, because it's likely that the governing party, and Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the White House, would get the lion's share of the blame for a government shutdown, not popular with the American people. I think what he's doing here tonight, though, and I think the endorsement of DeSantis as part of this, is putting his stamp. This is Donald Trump's Republican Party. This is not your father's Republican Party. And as such, his issues dominate. So DeSantis has ads out that really say, I am a Trump supporter. I'm a big Trump guy. He's got his little kid. He's reading, you know, you're fired from, and
Build the Wall.
Apprentice, Build the Wall. Yeah. And you see that here in the audience. The audience comes almost like they're going to World Wrestling, and they're pumped up, and they're going after the CNN people, and they're shouting out, lock her up, as if we're still running against Hillary Clinton. It's very entertaining.
I've been telling viewers for a while now, just watch where he goes and watch where he visits, because he's going to places that have tight Senate races and tight congressional races as well. As we get ready for the intro here, Greg, take us through the Paul Manafort trial today and just bring us up to date on what happened with the jury selection today thus far.
Well, this is really the first in earnest prosecution by the special counsel Robert Mueller. Interestingly, it has nothing whatsoever to do with Trump or Trump's campaign, has nothing to do with Russians, and it has absolutely nothing to do with collusion, which is curious. Because, you know, the authority of the special counsel was anything that arises from his collusion investigation. That's not what happened here. Mueller goes over to the tax division of the Department of Justice and goes through the basement archives and blows the dust off a decade-old case that was never prosecuted against Manafort for lack of evidence. And who was presiding back in those days? A guy by the name of Rod Rosenstein. They chose not to go after Manafort. Now, all of a sudden, that Rosenstein is presiding over Mueller in the special counsel case, he is bringing action against Manafort.
I thought what was interesting, Rick Gates has turned against him, right? Former business partner.
Right.
And it appeared that the defense for Manafort was going right after Rick Gates. Is that how they're framing that?
Yeah, they're saying that Manafort didn't intend to break the law. If he did violate tax laws, he did it without knowledge or understanding. But he trusted guys like Rick Gates, and Rick Gates, the defense will say, is lying to you, the jurors, because he has everything to gain to avoid prison.
All right, Charlie. Barack Obama in 2010 lost 63 House seats in his midterm. Right now, you've got an advantage of about 24, right? About 23 seats. This is a part of it. Sarasota's a pretty good race down there, but Tampa looks like the Democrat has a pretty firm lead. Charlie Crist further to the west looks like he can win his district. So this isn't one of these direct districts that could be switched yet again. But Ron DeSantis coming out today and really from the tweets a couple weeks ago, seems to have taken an edge in this primary over Adam Putnam in this race for Florida.
Oh, yeah, and of course, as Juan was saying earlier, it is Donald Trump's party at this point. You know, obviously there are still some old vestiges of the establishment that are kind of, I think, tugging him in a wrong direction a lot of times. But the bottom line is, it is his party now. And the reason it's his party is because not only did he run on these issues, but he's actually delivered on a startling number of them when you consider what Washington...
He can swing a primary. What is your sense about a general election?
I think that it's obviously it's a little bit tougher, but I think that the Trump delusion derangement syndrome has people thinking that this guy can get beaten with nothing, and that's simply not true. There are independents and certainly Republicans are still giving this guy a chance. They like what he's doing.
This is a big crowd here, Juan.
No.
He can turn out people in a way that I don't think we've ever really seen in modern politics.
Well, we've seen big crowds, and I don't want to get into territory about gauging crowds because we know the president had some trouble with the inaugural crowd, but you know, other politicians have done it. But my point to you here is that when you look at this crowd, remember, Ron DeSantis is there. But good question, where's Rick Scott, who's running for governor? Rick Scott has decided, you know, when it comes to the general election, and he's running statewide against Bill Nelson, the incumbent senator from Florida.
It's an interesting
He
point.
has to figure out how Trump plays.
Rick Scott was at the event prior to this,
Correct.
but he's doing a fundraiser that coincides with this rally.
And again, that's what Republicans have to do, Bill. They have to figure out where Trump's an advantage and where he's a disadvantage. In the Republican primaries, DeSantis' rise is evidence of his strength he said, I think it's close to 90% of Republicans support Donald Trump. That's the crowd you're watching.
Greg, I thought it was interesting to see Steve Bannon come out just the other day. He pretty much declared this is a referendum in November on the Trump presidency.
Yes, it really is. And the president has an enormous advantage when he campaigns 6 out of 7 days a week, as he's vowing. As one pointed out, Gallup last week had the president at 90% among Republicans.
General Kelly will stay on in the White House. That was announced today through 2020. That was some news as well. So we'll get that sign to drop down there in front. There we go. And we'll drop into Tampa, Florida. Expect this rally to go, what, would you say, an hour?
Maybe a little longer.
Perhaps, but a really good crowd to turn out tonight in Tampa as we drop in now live. Here we go.
Incredible people. I am thrilled to be in this great state where we, by the way, had a great victory. With thousands of hard-working American patriots who love our country and respect our great American flag. We're honored to be joined tonight by some tremendous people. Congressman Gus Bilirakis. Gus, where is Gus? Where is Gus? Where's Gus? Ted Yoho. And Matt Gaetz. Thank you. Great, fellas. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, fellas. I also want to recognize State Representative Jose Oliva and the former co-chairman of my Florida campaign, Representative Joe Gruters. Joe. Thank you, Joe. Thank you. And finally, I love you too. I'd like to introduce a true leader, a proud veteran, my great friend, a tough, brilliant cookie. True. He's tough, he's smart, and he loves Florida, and he loves our country. And he's going to be your next governor, Ron DeSantis.
Welcome to Florida, Mr. President. For someone who grew up just across the bay in Pinellas County, starting out working $6 an hour, it's a true honor to be standing here endorsed by the President of the United States. I appreciate your support, Mr. President, but I appreciate more the leadership you're showing for our great country. We have the strongest economy we've had in years. We are standing foursquare behind our ally, the State of Israel. We have strong constitutionalists being put on our courts, including the Supreme Court. We have ended the disastrous Iran deal. And under the President's leadership, we are standing against socialist dictatorships in Latin America like Cuba and Venezuela and Nicaragua. Florida is going in the right direction, and we need to continue our success and build upon it. We can't go back to the days of Charlie Crist, where the good old boys run the show. We can make our state without peer for economic opportunity if we continue with strong conservative policies. We can fight illegal immigration. All we got to do is enact E-Verify and stop sanctuary cities. We can end judicial activism in Florida by appointing solid constitutionalists to our state courts, just like the president has done to the federal courts. And we can improve our education system by stopping Common Core. By giving every child, regardless of circumstance, the ability to attend a good school, and by getting the Constitution back in our classrooms in a very big way. So, Mr. President, thank you for your support. Thank you for what you're doing for the state of Florida. I ask for your vote in the August primary, August 28th. I'd be honored to have it. Thank you, guys, and God bless America. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. And everybody needs to support Ron DeSantis in our August 28th primary. And in the November general election, don't forget, you have somebody, one of the group, is going to be running on open borders, anti-ICE, anti-law enforcement. Oh, that's too bad. That's too bad. That's too bad. That's too bad. One person, and tomorrow the headlines will be massive protests. Too bad. Sorry about that, Ron. Earlier today, I also spent time with your current governor, one of our nation's truly great leaders, Rick Scott. As you know, Rick is running to replace liberal, Democrat, Schumer-controlled, Nancy Pelosi-controlled, and the new star of the Democrat Party, Maxine Waters. Name is Bill Nelson. And you know, I live a lot of time in Florida. The only time I see Bill Nelson is 5 months before every election. And after a while, you forget who's the senator. But around 5 months, you see him at parties, and you see him around. And we have to be careful, because we have to make sure that Rick Scott wins, and wins big. Bill Nelson voted for Obamacare, which has been a totally disastrous situation. And we got rid of the individual mandate, the most unpopular aspect. And most of Obamacare will be gone very soon. In fact, it was gone until one gentleman decided at 2 o'clock in the morning. Remember? Thank you very much. We appreciate it. And he voted against tax cuts, and he wants to go in there and raise your taxes. Tell me, is that good politics? I don't think so. Bill Nelson voted in favor of sanctuary cities. He opposed Kate's Law. Bill Nelson puts criminal aliens before American citizens, which is why it's time to vote Bill Nelson out of office. That's what's going to happen. And we have two unbelievable people, Ron DeSantis, Rick Scott, fighting for Florida. They always will, and fighting to make America great again. That's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. So, I'm sure we all say this about our children, but I have great children. And a couple of them, plus, are here tonight. I have Eric Trump, who's been fantastic. He loves his political stuff. Eric's wife, Lara, who is so great. I think she single-handedly won the state of North Carolina for Trump. Thank you, Lara. Didn't hurt in Pennsylvania either. Thank you very much. And we have somebody that nobody ever heard of, Ivanka. Ivanka. Thank you. And, you know, we have a big thing happening because, you know, look at all those hats. White ones, red ones, they all have the same thing. Make America great. Well, make America great again. Only to be replaced by Keep America Great in about, I don't know, I guess we could do it now, but let's wait another year. We could do it right now, frankly. We're doing fantastically well. I also want to thank David Bossie for being here, Corey Lewandowski for being here, two of our great supporters. I'll tell you, they are two fighters. We like fighters, don't we? We started off, it was a small group. They said it couldn't be done. It was actually done quite easily. We won quite handily. We were never off center stage. You know what that means, right? The debates. We never left center stage. And I said, I always want odd numbers because I want to be in the center. I didn't want to be tied for the center. Does everybody understand? But we never left center stage. And I'll tell you, Corey, David, Ivanka, Laura, Eric, Don Jr., all of them, they were fantastic. They were fantastic. And I have to say, our First Lady is home watching. Look at all those cameras right there. She's home watching. And everybody loves Melania. They love Melania. Great. Doing a fantastic job. She's doing a fantastic job. Just last week, it was announced that the U.S. economy grew at 4.1% last quarter. It was a number that everybody said was not reachable, and I would never want to say it during the campaign, even though I believed it. I believed it because they would not have given us the break. Fake news, fake news. They are fake. Now, I mean, do you believe, look at this, every night it's the same thing. Wouldn't you think they'd get tired of these speeches? Wouldn't you think? And here's one thing I'll tell you. If they don't get ratings, those speeches don't go on, doesn't matter. Look how many they have back there. They just can't get enough. They can't get enough. They cannot get enough. And by the way, outside, if you want to go, we set up for the first time a tremendous movie screen because we have thousands and thousands of people outside that couldn't get in. So we have a big screen and big loudspeakers, and I hope you're all happy out there. This is a great place to be. If you got to be outside in the great state of Florida, right? Right? So we're setting records like never before. Since the election, we have added 3.7 million new jobs. They would not have believed it. We're in the longest positive job growth streak in history. Think of that. Remember I said, what do you have to lose? Right? Okay? What do you have to lose? And people said, I don't know, is that a nice thing? No, it's not nice or not unnice. What do you have to lose? The African-American unemployment rate has reached the lowest level in history. Thank you. You guys are great, thank you. Blacks for Trump. They say blacks for Trump. You knew a long time ago, didn't you, huh? You knew a long time ago. Thank you, folks, thank you. The Hispanic unemployment rate is at the lowest level in history. Hispanic. The Asian unemployment rate has reached the lowest level in history. Sorry about this, women, but the unemployment rate has reached the lowest level in only 65 years. It'll be history soon. It'll be. It'll be history soon. Give us about 2 more weeks. The veterans' unemployment rate, oh, do we love our veterans, right? Has reached the lowest level in 18 years. More than 3.5 million Americans have been lifted off food stamps since the election. American oil production is at an all-time high. We have never produced as much. And the United States is now a net natural gas exporter for the first time in more than 60 years. We will very shortly be the largest in the world in energy. The largest in the world. Think of that. And most importantly, America is being respected again. We're respected again. And I told the story the other day. I get to meet all these world leaders. Virtually everyone comes into the Oval Office or wherever we're meeting. And they don't know me. I'm meeting them in many cases for the first time. I'm not sure they like me, like in the case of NATO. I said, you got to pay your bills, folks. You got to pay up. Got to pay up. But they like me. They like me. But everyone that greets me says, hello, Mr. President. Congratulations on what you've done for the economy. It's the talk of the world. Talk of the world. Now that we have the best economy in the history of our country, this is the time to straighten out the worst trade deals ever made by any country on earth. They are the worst. For decades, the United States was the piggy bank that everybody was robbing. All of these other countries, our friends, our enemies, our allies, the foe. We rebuilt China, paying hundreds of billions of dollars a year with nobody there to protect your money. But you're there now. We are protecting your money. And I want to thank our farmers. Our farmers are true patriots. Because China and others have targeted, remember this, have targeted our farmers. Not good, not nice. And you know what our farmers are saying? It's okay. We can take it. These are incredible people. We can take it. You know why? They target our farmers because they know it's one of our great strengths. It's us. It's not me. It's us all together. They know it's one of our great strengths. We won every farm state. You got to see that middle of that map. It wasn't even the middle. It was about everything but a little corners of each side. But you have to see that is all red. Republican red. Beautiful Republican red. And remember this. Farms have been on a decline. I mean, it's been for 15 years. I've only been here for, it's pretty soon going to be close to 2 years. But if you look at soybeans, big crop, if you go back to Election Day and then move back 5 years, so 5 years before Election Day, soybeans dropped 50% in price. I wasn't even here. So now we're going to open up markets. We're going to do it the way it should be. And all of this stuff, you're going to make it back, and it's going to be made back faster than anybody would know. But we haven't been treated right. We're going to make it back nice and quickly. Nice and quickly. Now, after years of rebuilding foreign countries, it's time to finally rebuild our country, right? Wouldn't you say? Right? In the past, politicians ran for office pledging to crack down on unfair trade. They never did anything about it, only to get elected. And they just didn't do anything. The United States was allowed to truly get ripped off. But we're not going to let that happen. I'm not like other politicians. You've seen what happens. I've kept my promises. One of the brilliant pundits that doesn't have a clue. I mean, these people, how they have gotten us wrong. And you know what they were asking on Election Day? Where did all these people come from? Where did they come from? In Tennessee, that was an early state. They came in and they were pouring in with the early vote, and the fake news was saying, where are these people coming from? You know where they came from? They came from the heart. They came from people that were never happy with anybody until we came along. That's where they came from. That's where they came from. But one of the pundits said that he's made a lot of promises, and you won't believe it, but he's actually kept far more promises than he made. Did you ever hear that one? So Because they'll probably be throwing him out of broadcasting tomorrow. We've taken the toughest ever actions in response to China's abusive trade practices. And we're doing very well with China, very well. And I have a lot of respect for China, and I have tremendous respect for President Xi of China. But this has been too many years of abuse. $500 billion a year. $500 billion. We've helped rebuild China. We can't do that anymore. We can't do that anymore. And our farmers understand it, and our workers understand it, and frankly, our companies understand it. I was with one of the greatest companies in the world, the chief executive officer, very short while ago, and it really affects him. He said, you know what? This does affect our company, but Mr. President, keep going. You're doing the right thing. I thought it was great. I thought it was great. A great company, one of the greatest. He said, you're doing the right thing, and I said, I appreciate it. Thanks to our powerful trade policies, the trade deficit is falling and falling and falling, and boy, did it fall this quarter. The days of plundering American jobs and American wealth, those days are over. They're over. America first. America first. We're also living by two very important rules. Buy American and hire American. Last week, I visited with hundreds of American steel workers who were laid off years ago because other countries were dumping steel all over our country. They're not dumping so much anymore, you notice? And if they do, they're paying a 25% tariff or tax. So you know what I say to that? Dump all you want. I hope you dump a lot. Now, thanks to our tariffs, our steel workers are back on the job. American steel mills are back open for business. We are starting to set new records, and nobody believed it could happen this quickly. U.S. Steel just announced that they're building 6 new steel mills. And that number's soon going to be lifted, but I'm not allowed to say that, so I won't. And I'm very proud to report that Nucor is going to build a brand new $240 million steel mill. That's a big one, right here in Florida. The head of Nucor is here. Thank you. Thank you. Head of Nucor. That's a big one. Democrats want to raise your taxes. They want to destroy your jobs. They want to crush our industries with crippling regulations. And you know, the stock market is up almost 40% since that great November day. Your 401ks are doing very well. 401ks. I tell the story, I was in New York and I shake hands. I love law enforcement. Do we love law enforcement? And I was shaking hands with policemen in New York City, and the first one came up to me and said, Mr. President, I want to thank you so much. I said, what did I do? He said, my 401k is up 44%, and my wife thinks I'm, for the first time, a financial genius. She's giving him all the credit. She said, darling, I love you so much. And he said, yes, I'm a great financial wizard. But he said, you're just making me look so good. And all of you, who has 401ks here? I guarantee you one thing, I have your vote. I guarantee it. Of course, if the fake news did a poll, they're called suppression polls. You know, polls are fake just like everything else. If the fake news did a poll, it would show that I'm only getting 25% with the 401k people, even though they're up 44%. No, we're doing well. We're doing well, and I'm happy you're doing well. They just came out with a poll. Did you hear? The most popular person in the history of the Republican Party is Trump. Can you believe this? So I said, does that include Honest Abe Lincoln? You know, he was pretty good, right? Remember I said, when I'd be a little bit wild and would have a lot of fun, they'd say, he's not acting presidential. And I'd say, well, it's a lot easier to act presidential than to do what I do. Anybody can act presidential. Ladies and gentlemen of the state of Florida, thank you very much for being here. You are tremendous people. And I will leave now because I am boring you to death. Thank you. No, but I said, I used to tell them all the time, the fake news, I'd say, I can be more presidential than any president in history, except for possibly Abe Lincoln with a big hat. I don't know if I can. Abe looked pretty presidential, right? What do you think? He's tough. He's tough. I admit it, Abe Lincoln is tough. But we love Abe Lincoln. One of these guys, when that poll came out, most popular, and it was in the 90s. And one of these guys is on television, you know, can't miss a word, they see the poll, oh my God, look at this, oh my God. Yeah, 7 more years, 7 more. 7 more. Oh my God. Oh. We got to find something. We got to do anything to get him out. He's doing too well. This is not good. Worst of all, Democrats want to, you know that. They want to open our borders. They want to let crime, tremendous crime, into our country. We can't do it. Republicans want strong borders and no crime. Democrats want open borders, which equals massive crime. And on top of that, the Democrats, Nancy Pelosi, the whole group, Maxine, she likes me a lot. She likes me a lot. They've launched outrageous attacks on our incredible law enforcement officers and on ICE and our Border Patrol. Can you believe it? People that keep us safe. Their new platform, what they want to do, the Democrat Party, they want to abolish ICE. In other words, they want to let MS-13 rule our country. That's not going to happen. Every day, the brave men and women of ICE are liberating communities and towns from savage gangs like MS-13. that are occupying our country like another nation would. We want maximum border security and respect for our heroes, ICE, Border Patrol, and law enforcement. And we're going to have tremendous border security that will include the wall. That will include the wall. Now, a lot of people don't know it, but we've already started the wall. We got $1.6 billion, and we've started large portions of the wall. But we're going to need, even the way we negotiate, we're going to need more, and we're going to get more. And we may have to do some pretty drastic things, but we're going to get it. Because the Democrats are not voting for what we want to do, and they're not voting and allowing our values to take place in our country. We're tracking down the gang members, and we're tracking down the drug dealers and the child predators and the criminal aliens, and we're throwing them in jail or throwing them the hell out of our country. In some states, Democrats are even trying to give illegal immigrants the right to vote. They want to give them the right to vote. And what about all of those people that are waiting online for 7, 8, 9, 10 years, trying to get into our country? They don't have the right to vote. We believe that only American citizens should vote in American elections. Which is why the time has come for voter ID, like everything else. Voter ID. You know, if you go out and you want to buy groceries, you need a picture on a card. You need ID. You go out and you want to buy anything, you need ID and you need your picture. In this country, the only time you don't need it, in many cases, is when you want to vote for a president, when you want to vote for a senator, when you want to vote for a governor or a congressman. It's crazy. It's crazy. But we're turning it around. Remember, I said, it's awfully early to be thinking this, but I always think it. Remember the attack on Merry Christmas? They're not attacking it anymore. Everyone's happy to say Merry Christmas, right? Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. That was under siege. You'd have these big department stores that say Happy Holidays. They say, where's the Merry Christmas? Now they're all putting up Merry Christmas again. And that's only because of our campaign. And by the way, the evangelicals and Paula White, Pastor Paula White, the evangelicals have been so amazing to us. They came out and they voted 84% and double and triple the numbers that ever voted in an election before. We love the evangelical Christians. If you want safety, if you want borders, if you want to have a country, then you need to go out and vote Republican. And very importantly, you need to go out and vote for Ron DeSantis for governor of Florida. The lobbyists and special interests fighting against my administration, many of them are globalists. They care what happens in other countries. I care what's happening in the USA. geniuses who came up with our terrible trade deals, one after another. How about NAFTA? Remember when they signed NAFTA? Remember they signed NAFTA and everybody just moved their companies down to Mexico? And these people were saying, isn't that a wonderful thing? No, it's not a wonderful thing. And those companies are now moving back. These are the people who lost trillions of dollars overseas and who gave us our horrible immigration laws. These laws are the worst. I am for America first and the American worker. We want to be a puppet for no one any longer. We're not going to be a puppet any longer. My only special interest is you, the citizens of the United States. I've had a great career. I've had a lot of fun. Even in Florida, I've had a great career. I've had a lot of fun. I've done great. I've done really well, beyond anything I could have ever expected. And then I ran for president with no experience, and I won. Isn't that interesting? But you actually won. You know, I told the story the other day. I was probably in Washington in my entire life 17 times. True, 17 times. I don't think I ever stayed overnight. You know what I'm getting at, right? And we have a great cabinet now, a couple of little changes, but we have a great cabinet. We have some Mike Pompeo, our Secretary of State. So many great people. And we're really getting it. We have just incredible people. But I made some choices that I wouldn't have made. But I'm riding down Pennsylvania Avenue. Again, I've only been here about 17 times. And probably 7 of those times was to check out the hotel I'm building on Pennsylvania Avenue. And then I hop on the plane, I go back. So I've been there 17 times, never stayed there at night, I don't believe. And then I'm riding down in this beautiful car, picked up at the airport by Secret Service, holding the hand of our great First Lady. And I look at her and I say, honey, guess what? I'm President of the United States. President of the United States. And I didn't know anybody in Washington, but now I know everybody in Washington. I know the good ones, I know the bad ones. I know the wonderful people, and I know the scum. And America now is winning again, like they haven't won before. We passed the biggest tax cuts and reform in American history, biggest cuts in history. More than 100 utilities have slashed rates for consumers, including right here from Duke Energy and Tampa Electric. Your rates have gone down. Over $300 billion poured back into the United States in the first quarter, and we expect to be taking back, because of our new tax cut and reform plan that passed, bigger than anything ever in our country. We expect to be taking back from overseas over $4 trillion. That's a lot of money. Could never have come back before. And if our opponent had won and the Democrats had won, they would have put more regulations on. They would have raised your taxes. They would have opened your borders, gotten rid of law enforcement. They would not have helped your military. And you know what? Our country would be going to hell. And instead of going up, the market would be half of what it was if we're lucky. Because frankly, the tax cuts were incredible to what we've done. But maybe even more important are the cuts in these horrible regulations that didn't allow anybody to do anything. job-killing regulations. We've gotten rid of more regulations than any president in the history of the United States, and that's done in less than 2 years. I withdrew the United States from the unfair, one-sided, very, very expensive, job-killing Paris Climate Accord. We repealed the core of Obamacare. The individual mandate is gone. You know, the individual mandate. That's a beauty. Only the past administration could have come up with this. That's where you pay a lot of money for the privilege of not paying in order to have poor health care. Other than that, it's a wonderful thing. So you pay all this money for the privilege of not having to pay. And the health care is no good to start off with. And we're doing great on health care. We're allowing Americans to buy better health care for less money through association health plans, including across state lines bidding. You're getting tremendous competition. We passed the biggest VA reform in half a century, Veterans' Choice. If our veterans can't get the care they need from the VA, they will have the right to go see a private doctor. We'll pay for the doctor, and frankly, we'll save a lot of money. We'll help a lot of vets. Everybody said they've been trying to get it for 45 years. Everybody said you can't get it. Think of it. Think of it. Veterans' Choice. They have to stand. Our great people. These are our great people. Who's a veteran in this audience? Do you like Trump? Do you like the job we're doing? Now think of it, 45 years. Everybody said you'll never get it passed. And I used to say, before I really was well-versed on the veteran situation and health care, I used to say all the time, why don't they just let the folks go to a doctor? They'd wait in line for 7 days, 9 days, 14 days, 21 days. Some of them started off with a very modest problem. They end up being terminal because they can't see a doctor. I said, why don't they just let them go see a local private doctor, pay the bill, and take care of it? It will be a lot less expensive. And it's turned out to be something that the veterans love. They love. And it's passed. It's passed. They've been trying to get it passed for 38 years. The other one is 45, and that's VA accountability. If somebody treated our veterans badly, if they stole, if they were, you know this, if they were sadistic, if they were really bad to our vets, all right? Really, really bad, we couldn't do anything about it. They could steal, they could rob, they could be abusive. You couldn't say, you're fired. Now you can say, you're fired. Made a big difference. That was another one they said, you'll never get it done. Between civil service and unions, we love them both, but between civil service and unions, they said, you'll never get it done, you'll never get it approved. And by the way, we had virtually no help, very little, from Democrats. Very little. Not because it's not right, but because they don't want to give Trump any victory. They'll do everything that's wrong. Look at Judge Kavanaugh. This is a great, great, highly respected man. And the good news is the Republicans, I believe, are close to 100%, which is what we need. But so far, the Democrats haven't given us any votes, and that's because they will do anything they can to not help the Trump agenda, even though they know it's wrong. And Brett Kavanaugh, highest education, best grades, best tests, best everything. They thought 15 years ago he was going to be a Supreme Court judge. Look at Justice Gorsuch. How good is he? How good is he? So we're getting them through, but it's not easy because they really are. You know, their term that they use is resist. It's actually resist and obstruct. Whatever they can do to resist and obstruct. And frankly, they're lousy politicians. They have horrible policy. The one thing they're good at, they stick together. And they obstruct. And it's unfortunate. Do you know we have almost 400 people trying to get into government, many of whom have left their jobs, and the Democrats are holding them up with maximum delay. They're holding them up, not allowing these great people to serve their country. It's a disgrace. That's Chuck Schumer, and it's a disgrace. It's a disgrace. But we'll get that Supreme Court judge, and that's the big one. That's the big one. Really important for those who love our military. We have
Good evening and welcome to Chuck Carlson tonight. Right now, as you can see, the president is speaking at a rally in Tampa, Florida. We're going to continue to listen in until he's done.
Next year, all approved. And this is great news for the incredible patriots at MacDill Air Force Base, the proud home of the 6th Air Mobility Wing, U.S. Central Command and Special Operations Command. Come on, listen. We're adding nearly 30,000 new soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines. And we have secured the largest pay raise for our great warriors in a decade. I've also directed the Pentagon to begin the process of creating the 6th branch of our military, the Space Force. Building the Space Force. And we're doing well in North Korea, although I happen to think that we're doing so well with China that China maybe is getting in our way, but we're going to figure that one out before you can even think about it. But we're doing well in North Korea. We have our, as you know, we have our hostages back. There's been no nuclear testing. There's been no missiles or rockets flying beautifully over Japan. I think our relationship is very good with Chairman Kim, and we'll all see how it all works out, but there's nothing like talking, and we'll see how it is. You remember when I first took office? It really looked like big trouble. And the past administration, they thought that was by far their biggest problem. So I think it's going to work out very well. But a lot of good things are happening. No tests, no rockets flying, but we'll see what happens. And our Vice President, Mike Pence, is going to Hawaii to bring back the remains and to greet the families of our great heroes who gave their lives in Korea. Our fallen warriors are finally coming home to lay at rest in American soil. I also withdrew the United States from the horrible one-sided $150 billion was paid. $1.8 billion in cash. The Iran nuclear deal, it's a horror show. I hope it works out well with Iran. They're having a lot of difficulty right now. I hope it works out well. And I have a feeling they'll be talking to us pretty soon. And maybe not, and that's okay too. In December, I recognized Israel's true capital, Jerusalem. And in about 5 months, we opened already the American embassy in Jerusalem. And people had that scheduled for anywhere from 5 to 10 years, and you all know the story. We took an existing building, we played around with it, we renovated it, we fixed it up. We used Jerusalem stone, one of the finest stones actually in the world, Jerusalem stone. So instead of spending $1 billion, and the papers were right in front of me, sir, would you please prove this? What is it? This is for the embassy in Israel. American, sir. I said, how much? $1 billion, sir. $1 billion. I immediately called our great ambassador to Israel, David Friedman. Very successful man, great lawyer, one of the most successful lawyers in the country before he decided to do what he's doing. I said, David, they want us to pay $1 billion for the embassy. I don't want to pay $1 billion. I said, study it. Do you have any buildings that we own? We own so much, we don't even know what the hell we own. Find some building in a great location, call me back. Called me back 2 days later, he said, Mr. President, sir, we own the best site in Jerusalem. It's big, it's beautiful, and it's got a building on it. I can take that building and renovate it. I can do it for $140,000. I will. I said, David, how good is the site? We could never buy a better site. They were willing to spend tens of millions for a site. They wanted to buy a site which was so bad, it was totally inferior to what we already had. Don't forget, we get there first, right? You know, we have good sites. And I said, David, do me a favor. Don't make it $140,000. Sounds too cheap. Make it like $400,000. That's okay too, David. So we saved almost $1 billion. I could tell you these stories all day long. Airplane purchases. I could tell you all day. And we started working, and for $400,000, we actually have a very beautiful American embassy in Jerusalem. Really beautiful. Now, that's one I guarantee no other president's doing. Can you imagine crooked Hillary doing that? Can you, honestly? Can you imagine? In all fairness to her, could you imagine anybody else doing that? Nobody else. Nobody else is going to do that. And I could tell you stories about what we've saved with purchases of military equipment. General Mattis would be glad to tell you, but he can't believe it. And some of the generals have said they've never seen anything like it in the world. They've never seen. Because I want that $700 billion properly spent. If we can buy twice the number of aircraft or have a lot of money left over, that's what we want. Instead of apologizing for America, we're standing up for America. We're standing up for the heroes who protect America. And yes, we are proudly standing up for our great national anthem. With every promise we keep, every record we break, every factory we open, we are restoring American strength and American pride. But to continue this incredible momentum, this incredible movement, and that's what we have. We have a movement. This may be, in fact, it probably is, the greatest movement in the history of our country. Even they will say that. Even they will say that. But to keep it going, we need to elect more Republicans. We need more votes. And we need to elect Ron DeSantis as your governor. Got to do it. And I'm telling you, I know him well. He's a great, great guy. He's going to be an incredible governor. I have no doubt. I have no doubt. I don't do these endorsements easily. I don't need to be here, but I happen to love this state, so it's one of those things. But I don't do them easily. Although it seems to have an impact. The other day, we endorsed a great gentleman from Georgia. He was probably 5 points down. He won the election by 40 points. He got 70% of the vote to 30. Think of that. Great guy. And many others. I mean, we could go over one after another after another. They're actually starting to give us credit for this. I don't think there's ever been anything like it. That's why I had to be here to formally, you know, I've been endorsing Ron. I've been saying great things, but I wanted to be here to formally endorse Ron. You got to get out and vote. Thank you, Mrs. DeSantis. Thank you. Thank you. Beautiful family. Get your friends, get your colleagues, get your neighbors, and get out and vote in November. You got to do it because, remember, we're going to win this primary, but don't take any chances. Nice lead. Nice lead. Don't take any chances. And then give yourself 10, 15 minutes of happiness, and then go back to work for November. Because we have to remember, they're putting up, I know some of the candidates, these are people that don't care about stopping crime. These are people that don't care about people pouring into our country when they shouldn't be here. They don't care about stopping drugs from poisoning our youth and pouring over the border. They don't care. Your future governor cares, and your current governor cares. Rick Scott. Loyal citizens like you, incredible people from the great state of Florida, help build this country. And together we are taking back our country. We are returning power to where it belongs, the American people. This state was settled by pioneers and visionaries who explored the marshes and raised up cities right on the sea. This state was built by red-blooded American patriots who opened the first naval air station at Pensacola and launched the first brave American soaring into the heavens. We stand on the shoulders of generations of proud Americans who knew how to work, knew how to fight, and knew how to win. And you know, when you elect Ron DeSantis as your governor, because you see it already, we're winning so much, some people are getting a little tired of winning, right? Well, by then, it'll be another year and 2 years and 3 years. And you'll be insisting, Governor DeSantis, please see our president. It's too much winning. We can't stand it. The people of Florida, we can't stand it. Because under previous administrations, we never won. We got used to never winning. And he's going to come to me in Washington, in the Oval Office, the beautiful Oval Office. And he's going to say, Mr. President, the people of Florida are just downright tired of winning. They can't stand it. It's just too much, Mr. President. The economy is too good. The jobs are too strong. We're doing too well. Is there anything you can do? I'm going to say, Ron, I don't care what you say, we're going to keep on winning. We're going to keep on winning. We're going to win so much, and the people of Florida actually love it, don't they, huh? They love it. Remember what I said right at the beginning. We're respected again, and that man is respected and always has been. We will never give up. We will never give in. We will never, ever back down. And we will never, ever surrender. Because we are Americans, and our hearts bleed red, white, and blue. We are one people. We are one family. And we are one glorious nation under God. And together we will make America wealthy again. We will make America strong again. We will make America safe again. And we will make America great again. Thank you, Florida. Thank you.
The president speaking to a rally in Tampa, Florida for over an hour. During the rally, the president weighed in on many different topics, from the United States military to the governor's race in the state of Florida. He weighed in on the Republican primary, backing Ron DeSantis pretty assertively. And he had this to say about the border, the U.S.-Mexico border. Watch.
And we're going to have tremendous border security that will include the wall. That will include the wall. Now, a lot of people don't know it, but we've already started the wall. We got $1.6 billion, and we've started large portions of the wall, but we're going to need, even the way we negotiate, we're going to need more, and we're going to get more, and we may have to do some pretty drastic things, but we're going to get it.
The border wall, of course, the centerpiece of the president's 2016 campaign, and yet Republicans in Congress the past year and a half have not been eager to provide funding for that wall or the border enforcement the president has repeatedly promised. They are apparently content to face voters in the midterms having produced a massive corporate tax cut and not a lot else. Byron York has been watching carefully. He writes for the Washington Examiner. He joins us tonight. So, Byron, there does seem to be this huge disconnect between what the president says he wants and what the Congress is willing to provide. Why is that?
Well, there's no doubt. I think some of it's kind of simple. I think the Speaker of the House, who is leaving Congress at the end of this year, simply doesn't want to do it. And the Majority Leader of the House, who supports it, the Majority Leader of the Senate, doesn't seem to care all that much one way or the other. The other problem, of course, is the president who did make this the showcase promise of his 2016 campaign has not pushed as hard with as much focus as he could have to get this through Congress.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I think, it took the president a while to figure out how to work with Congress. And how many times did we hear last year? We heard someone say, well, we can get the wall next year. We'll get it next year. Well, now, next year is here, and it's almost August, and it hasn't happened yet. You heard the president at his speech tonight saying he got $1.6 billion. That's not going to do it. We're talking about $25 billion in real money, not promised money. And right. The president simply has not focused on this. Members of Congress need to be led. They need to be pushed. They need to be cajoled, in some cases bribed, for a president to get what he wants. And I think it's taken a while for the president to master that art.
Interesting. So, I mean, what do Republicans think is going to happen if they plan to ride the president's popularity to victory to the extent that they can in the midterms? But if they're not making good on the promises that got the president elected, how do they believe that's going to work for them?
Go back to 2006. There was a bill passed called the Secure Fence Act of 2006. It mandated a triple-layer fence along about 700 miles of the U.S. border. If it had been built, it would have really helped stop illegal crossings of the U.S. border. It was passed with big bipartisan majorities in the House and Senate, 283 votes in the House, 80 votes in the Senate. Among those voting aye in the Senate were Senator Schumer, Senator Obama, Senator Clinton, Senator Biden, the two California senators, Boxer and Feinstein. They all voted for it. There was a bipartisan consensus to vote for it, and there was a bipartisan consensus not to build the fence. It wasn't built in the Bush administration. It was not built in the Obama administration. And so you've seen in the political culture of Washington the need to placate voters by promising to do something about this, but the determination to never actually do it.
Yeah. Well, at some point, voters will rebel against that. They figure out that the football is being pulled out from under them. Byron, New York, great to see you. Thank you.
Thank you, Tucker.
Well, for more than a month now, supporters of illegal immigration in the state of Oregon have decided to halt the enforcement of immigration law by harassing the people who are tasked with enforcing it. Activists engaged in an Occupy ICE protest at one of the agency's facilities in Oregon. They finally left, but they left a gigantic pile of garbage to remember them by. Here it is.
Where protesters once stood, trash now litters the property next to the ICE building on McAdam. Protesters left this behind. Work trucks packed to the brim with everything from food to furniture, cardboard signs, and wooden pallets. A TriMet official told Fox 12 workers even found needles on the ground.
Cameron Whitten attended and slept overnight at the Occupy ICE camp in Portland. He joins us tonight. Cameron, thanks a lot for coming on.
Tucker, it's good to see you again.
So it's nice to see you. So is this a foretaste of what we can expect if the revolution actually happens? So you guys take over and leave piles of garbage. Why would this reassure anybody watching at home that activists like yourself should have any power over anything?
Thank you for that question. So first, what I want to do is celebrate this successful display of grassroots, people-powered change. What happened here was Occupy ICE, both here in Portland and across the country, sent a powerful message about the economic and humanitarian crisis that has been created by family separation and other harmful immigration policies. We garnered the support of four former First Ladies, and we were able to successfully push the U.S. president to change a part of a draconian immigration policy. And there's more work that needs to be done to demand change.
Slow down, Cameron. I know you're excited about this. Hold on. Why couldn't you use that people power you're telling me about to pick up the garbage before you left? How does that work? You mobilize, you've got a mass movement, right, of engaged people who want to make America better, but you leave beer bottles and hypodermic needles behind. Is that really the kind of change most people want? I don't think so. No,
Tucker,
it's a serious question. Like, why didn't you clean up when you left?
Because can we talk about what's important right now about the interests of American people?
Heap.
So, Tucker, honestly, I feel like what you're doing is you're avoiding the conversation.
I'm not avoiding.
Why are we here?
Avoiding the conversation. No show addresses this topic more often and more directly than this one does. But I'm an American. I was born here. I have a family. I don't want to live in a place that looks like Tegucigalpa. And I don't think anyone does, including immigrants. And I'm just saying, if you are setting a model for the rest of us, why the hell were you living like animals? That's a totally real question. What's the answer? And then we'll move on once you answer it. How's that?
So we are living in a time of crisis in the United States, and I am so thankful that there are people who are demanding change. And you know what? What we're dealing with right now is a crisis, and we cannot sit here and cast blame for certain individual actions. You cannot take certain individual actions and then dismiss why we are here. Stop distracting from the message. The message that we are focusing on right now is the question of whether immigration got some...
want to read. Okay. But
okay, so
here's the
Tucker,
point,
since
is
I thought you were a smart person, but let me talk to you in your terms.
This is central to the point. No.
So let me talk to you in your terms.
You're
Tucker.
telling me you're making America better, but you make it worse.
Let's say you have an annual family barbecue, and your brother-in-law shows up drunk. Do you cancel the whole barbecue? No. So what we're talking about right now is that there was a protest where people weren't just camping outside. People across the country, four former first ladies, they were not camping in the streets. What we're talking about is the message of this movement and holding immigration customs enforcement and Trump's harmful immigration policies accountable.
Look, okay,
I'm not going to agree with what everybody did. I'm not agree with what everybody did, and I'm sure that you don't agree with every conservative and their actions and what they say.
Okay,
but what I do
agree with
is the message of why we are here, and we cannot ignore the fact that Trump's policies are not beyond reproach. That we have to demand change, and we have to do drastic things, as Trump said.
You're making me give up.
You're too
obnoxious. I can't handle it. Okay, thanks, Cameron. I don't think you did yourself or your cause any help at all. But maybe you did. Maybe there's someone watching and think, you know, that Cameron guy, the guy who left all the beer bottles and the hypodermic needles, I like him. I'm on his side now. Maybe there's someone like that. Call me if you exist. Well, a basic principle of Anglo-American civilization is that everybody is treated equally before the law, no matter who you are, no matter what your political views are. Now, the left is willing to jettison that ancient principle to protect people who shouldn't be here in the first place. During the month-long occupation of ICE, the mayor of Portland, Ted Wheeler, announced he supported the protesters and refused to have the police intervene against them. Here's what he said.
I stand with those who are opposed to the forced separation of children from their parents. I've consistently stated that I do not want the Portland Police Bureau engaged in securing federal property that houses a federal agency with its own federal police force.
So here's the nub of it. Here's the detail that makes you worried that maybe we're moving towards some kind of civil conflict. Maybe things really are coming apart. The police in Portland, Oregon, which is a big modern city, refused to even answer the 911 calls from the occupied building. That means this local police refused to protect American citizens because they didn't agree with their politics. Now the National ICE Council has sent a cease and desist letter demanding that their right to protection, which is afforded to all Americans, be preserved. Brandon Judd is president of the National Border Patrol Council, and he joins us tonight. So, Brandon, I guess I just want to make sure I've got the facts on this right, because it seems like one of those seminal moments where all of a sudden you realize everything is really different. Are you claiming, is ICE saying, your agency saying, that the city of Portland refused to protect you despite your request for protection because they didn't agree with your politics?
They did, and unfortunately for the citizens of Portland, what they have to understand is now if they disagree with this mayor's position, there's a good chance that this mayor is not going to allow their police officers to support them if they feel like they're in danger from attacks or their physical person is in danger. And that is the wrong message to send. But Tucker, let's be clear, that's actually going to play in the favor of the conservatives, because this is the kind of crazy talk that rallies the conservatives to the cause, that says we have got to stop this. And the vast majority of Americans believe...
Wait a second. Where's this? Well, hold on. Where's the Civil Rights Division of the Justice Department? They're denying equal protection under the law selectively to people whose politics they disagree with. I mean, that is a constitutional violation if there ever was one. Why aren't they being arrested? I'm serious. I mean, where is the Civil Rights Division on that?
So right now, it's my understanding that it is currently under investigation with this mayor's actions. Their failure to respond to the 9/11 calls, it's my understanding that they're under investigation. But you also have to look at what the mayor said. The mayor said that there is a federal law enforcement agency. Is the mayor concluding that the federal law enforcement agency has the right to enforce all of the laws, including the laws of the city? There's supposed to be a separation between law enforcement agencies, and in this case, it was the Portland Police Department had the responsibility to enforce those laws that were being infringed upon. It wasn't the responsibility of ICE to enforce those laws. It was the mayor's responsibility, and he failed to do it.
The bottom line is, when an American citizen calls a law enforcement agency for help because he feels he's in danger, that agency has a moral and legal responsibility to come to his aid. And they didn't because they don't agree with you. And that's the beginning of the end if we allow that kind of... They should, I mean, that's totally outrageous. And just
That's
for the
politics.
third time, to be totally clear, that's what happened.
That's today's politics, and that's what we have to get beyond. And that's, again, it makes me happy when things like this happen, because Americans, the vast majority of Americans, disagree with these types of policies, and then we can get people that care elected.
It's unbelievable. Brandon, thank you very much for that. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Tucker.
Paul Manafort didn't kill anybody. He didn't deal drugs. He's not even accused of colluding with Russia. He is rotting in solitary confinement like a serial killer and facing 300 years in prison. Why is that? We'll tell you next.